Today, I've got a very interesting guest with me who I'm very keen to talk to in the light of recent events in the last week. It is the voice of English international cricket in this country. It's a warm welcome to Graham Woodward. Graham, welcome to 98 No Out.
Yeah, nice to be on again, mate. It's great to speak to you after what's been, an amazing week, a brilliant summer of cricket and international cricket for England. But the Test match that we've just had, will never ever be repeated. I think as to what happened, what had to be dealt with in just such a short time. But yeah, no, fantastic thing to be involved with, and obviously England won as well. It was great.
That's right. So let's just start with that. So regular listeners will know that I was broadcasting live on air when the news broke last week, which was that day was supposed to be day one of the Test match, but because of events, we didn't get underway until Saturday, which left us 3 days, which these days really is all you need to get a Test match in, as we found out. But Saturday was one of those occasions where I've been to a lot of cricket down the years and witnessed a lot of things, but nothing ever of that magnitude. And there you were, sort of master of ceremonies. Can you just sort of run us through your experience of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think you've said about you've been to a lot of cricket. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to do cricket since '98, presenting wise, but I've also been lucky enough to present an awful lot of other big events, sporting events in big arenas. And I would go as far to say it was just the most amazing thing. Largely down to the crowd and largely down to Laura Wright, who was absolutely outstanding. But just the atmosphere was something else, and the silence, and I did say afterwards, I think that 15 minutes, 20 minutes, I think I will remember for the rest of my life, because it was such a dramatic thing. The silence in the Kia Oval was just incredible. I mean, you were there, watching, and there was an awful lot went into the timing and planning. We had discussions early on the Saturday, but I think when I walked into the ground Saturday morning about 8:30, Laura was rehearsing the anthem. And of course, for those that didn't see it, she sang it without any background, any music. It was just her voice. And I walked in and I was just like, wow, this is going to be incredible. And that was an understatement. It was tremendous. And watching back on telly, it's great, but nothing ever will take away being there. And that atmosphere in the ground was just electric.
The organisers, the Kia Oval and the ECB had encouraged everyone to get to the ground by 10:30 because they wanted to do something. No one seemed to know quite what was going to happen. As you say, the thing that struck me was the absolute complete silence. I mean, the Oval is possibly the biggest cricket ground in the country, full of people. And when you go to things where there's a minute silence, I've been to football matches, whatever else, there's always some idiot or joker that thinks it's great to wolf whistle or whatever else. Absolutely none of that. And the only noise that I could hear was there was a building site probably 2 blocks away where you could hear the crane in action. But the ground, the silence was incredible. And then to see the players coming down the steps, led by Ben Stokes, in complete silence with no histrionics or fist pumping or anything, was just a moment in time for me.
Yeah, I think it was a great thing. One thing that I always say to younger people who want to try and get into presenting, into announcing, whatever, and broadcasting in general, is that actually sometimes less is more. And it was one thing, the ECB presentation team, led by Phil Williams, the match manager on the occasion, Jess Stapleton, they did a fantastic job, along with Surrey. I have to say, Surrey have got a brilliant team. The work that went in to making what happened. And, in the end, it actually was very, very simple, but it was so brilliantly choreographed and put together. And when we do these kind of events, a lot of the groundwork is done, particularly when we talk of Ruth Strauss Foundation Day, which is such a special day at Lord's. But these things, are put together, and then we discuss them in the morning and how we're going to do. And the big thing with what you've just said is that normally when the players come out for the anthems, I will say, please welcome to the field the ICC match officials, South Africa and England, to come to the field. And it was one thing that I said on Saturday morning, and I said to Phil and Kevin Bannerman, who's been alongside me ever since I started doing the job, that needs to be silent. And Phil said, yeah, you're right. That's what we want. And the reason being, because that actually wasn't needed. And it added the players just walking down. I'd introduced the Guard of Honour because that was very much Royal Military. The bell ringer, who again was the highest ranked officer there, and Laura, just prior to that. And they came out into the field. And then there was this silence. And the other thing as well was that actually everybody got to their feet. Because again, I think as you said, sometimes in that situation, you'll get some people, and actually, if you listen back, you'll hear me say just before, for those that are able, please stand, because that's right. The norm. And actually, it actually wasn't needed because the whole place. And I think the classic you said, because I was talking yesterday after the match, and the comment was made about the building site. And actually, it was tremendous because in a London unique British way, it actually fitted in because that is London. That is London. The noises. It was fantastic. So, but it was amazing. The silence though was just phenomenal.
Yeah, I've never experienced anything like it. And as you say, Laura, to sing like that in those occasions, because she must have been aware of the gravity of everything and the kind of the weight on her shoulders in doing that, as you say, unaccompanied, just her and a microphone. But she did both anthems as well. And I was actually quite impressed with the way she sang the South African anthem as well.
Incredible. I was talking with a couple of South Africans yesterday after when the game had finished, and they said that they were just hoping and praying that she could get through the key change because it's such a significant key change. But that was just impeccable. And I mean, fair play. Laura is an absolute pro. We've had Laura so many times sing anthems, and she's done the big Grand Prix, she's done the big rugby, she's done big football, FA Cup finals, all the big cricket. But in terms of that event, to be singing that at that time, I mean, I just cannot think what was going through. It was bad enough trying to keep together to get the words right for my part, but that was nothing compared to what she did, to do it so beautifully and brilliantly. As I say, that's something that I just don't think I'll ever forget.
No, I think for all of us that are living through these times, it will be something that is etched. Where were you? Your memories of it, and there's just some of the powerful images that we're seeing on the TV of this whole ceremony and occasion, and the moment when we all joined in with God Save the King, which was being sung for the first time at a sporting event, I believe. I don't mind admitting I was struggling because I really had a big lump in my throat because of the occasion, because of the importance of what we were doing. But everyone around me, everyone was belting out the national anthem. It was just incredible.
Yeah, the whole thing was fantastic, and I was pleased to get through my first part and my main part of saying the speech, and getting through the silence and the anthems, because when Laura sang, that was me virtually gone as well. And it was clear it was getting to everybody. Our team was saying that the guy that rang the bell was in floods of tears. Absolutely no shame, because it was just that kind of moment, and the realization. Let's be honest. The Queen is 96, so it shouldn't be that much of a surprise, but it's irrelevant. It's still the shock, and it just hit everybody. I mean, Friday I went to the palace because we had Friday obviously where we were waiting to find out what was going on, and I walked down there, and it was just the most bizarre, but powerful feeling around everywhere. That was just everybody coming together. Didn't really know what they were doing there. I mean, when I out of complete fluke, I happened to get there just as as King Charles was driven back in, which was more fluke. I had no idea that was happening, but the atmosphere was just electric, and people's reactions, you just don't know what you're going to get. But I think everybody, while it's not the biggest surprise, because not many people live to 96 these days, it's still that shock that for just about everybody, whether it's me, whether it's my mum, dad, my nan who passed a few years ago, the Queen's been a part of everybody's life. And I think it's just that shock that, hang on a minute, not going to be doing the Queen, we're not going to get the Christmas speech this year. And it's stuff like that that really hits people, that it's just part of everyone's life.
I think because she's been part of, you've got to be quite old now to have known anything different.
Yeah.
And I think we'd almost collectively fallen into a sense of her being almost immortal, really, that she would go on forever and ever. And I think that's where the realization has come in, that she's not going to be part of our lives anymore. And things have changed. It's a big change.
Yeah, absolutely. That's right. And people are, are we going to get a big change in life? I don't think we will get too much for the time being, but there is, the interest in the younger generation and their reaction to it as well. Because, I remember I spoke to my dad on Saturday, and it's like, well, hang on, my dad's, on the verge of 70, and yet, so it's been part of his life as well. And I think there's just that sense of for everybody. And I think the other thing as well, I spoke to the match officials afterwards in the hotel, and they were like, it's not our Queen. It's not necessarily to do with us, but my God, that was special. And how they felt it as well. So from different nations, even my cab driver this morning when I was leaving London, he was the same. He was asking all sorts of questions and things. And I think he was originally Polish, but the questions he asked, and he just said, "This is absolutely incredible. It's amazing. It's so emotional." So I think that's a good yardstick, really, that how for everybody else, and it's been seen around the world, hasn't it, on the news with the tributes that have been made. I think it goes to show, what a wonderfully respected lady she was, and for all she did, quite rightly.
And I think bringing it sort of back to cricket a little bit, I've got an interesting anecdote, which what she meant to the game of cricket. So Sir Alistair Cook, who we don't really need to talk too much about, everyone knows him, everyone knows what he's done. I was at his farm a few years ago, helping him birth lambs and drive tractors and whatever else. I don't quite know how I got roped into that, but I did. But it was a great day out. And we went back to his farmhouse. And as we were walking up there, I was saying to him, I said, given your career and all the things in cricket that you've achieved, and are you like, other sporting legends that maybe you keep a bit of memorabilia? That was the stump from that game. That was the bat that I hit, whatever. And he said to me, he said, absolutely nothing. I've got no interest. I give it all away. He said, I'll give it to charity. I'll give it to whatever, auctions, whatever. He said, but there's one thing I've got, which I treasure more than anything else. And he wouldn't tell me what it was. And we got inside, and I just asked him where the loo was. And he said, oh, just past the stairs down there. And when you go in there, or when you come back, tell me if you notice anything. I didn't notice something in there. On the wall is a photograph of the England team with Alistair as captain being presented to the Queen. And I came back and I said, oh, you got a picture of that? He said, yeah. He said, that to me meant more than anything else that I'd done on a cricket field.
And that absolutely says it all, doesn't it? That absolutely says it all. And I think, that comment, and for someone that's so highly respected in the game as well, that, and has been right at the very top. And someone made the point the other day that when anybody meets the Queen, it's a special moment, and it's a moment they will remember for the rest of their life, and what they say. And when you think how many people over the years that she's met and she knows that position, and to be into that and to keep coming up with something, quite humorous, and or a tale, something that's unique and remembered, because every single person will be nervous, probably not themselves, about as to what to say. But over the years, the amount of hundreds of thousands of billions, whatever it may be, of people that she's actually done that with is phenomenal. But I mean, Cookie's such a special guy as well. Always good to see him still around the grounds now doing media work as well. Doesn't surprise me. One of the most random men that you'd ever imagine, some of the things he likes and does and everything else, but such a top guy.
So it's been a summer, the last week apart, where we've kind of got a bit back to normality, and we've got a really entertaining brand of cricket being played by England. You've had front seat to it all. What are your thoughts on this summer of fun?
Yeah, it's been very different. Thoroughly entertaining. I remember the first few years I did test matches. I think the first 2 years, only one game went to day 5, and then since then, I think it's only 2 days or two matches that haven't gone to day 5. And then this year, it's just been completely different, completely bizarre. I mean, the Johnny Bairstow innings at Trent Bridge, that half an hour where he got that century in 24 years, whatever it is now, since 98, that I've been doing all forms of cricket, I have never seen anything quite like that. Granted, New Zealand continued to bowl short, and Johnny kept saying thank you very much into the stand for 6, but I have never seen a half an hour of play like that. And that kind of really sums up the season. England came into it, being asked questions. They've won 6 test matches. It's been phenomenal. They've been entertaining. I mean, the New Zealand series was interesting because all 3 of those New Zealand test matches had points in those games. They could have gone either way. And things, England maybe had the rub on a couple of occasions, but, fully deserved their successes, don't get me wrong. But it was very, very tight. I thought we would roll South Africa over quite comfortably, because while I think their bowling is very, very good, and perhaps we didn't, because of the state of the games, we didn't get to see too much of Maharaj in the last couple of games in particular, but their bowling attack very good. But I was concerned about their batting. And I thought there was a good point made during this match that actually on one occasion they've kind of made above par with the bat, and that was at Lord's, and that allowed the bowling to come into play. And of course, since then, the bat just hasn't, no one's really got going. I mean, Dean Elgar, I thought, looked his innings at Lord's, where if you remember, he hit wicket, played on, and was so unlucky, and he was set at the time, just looked phenomenal. And he never quite got going again. And I just felt with Dean that perhaps because he's such a very, very good player, I just wonder whether the captaincy maybe affected him in the second and third, because there was a lot going on, and he was fully aware how important his wicket was. Because the second and third tests, in the end, England have won fairly comfortably, as I thought they probably would. So overall, you've got to look at it. When you look at that in the India match as well, thoroughly entertaining. And when England have won so many games after what's been, a couple of years where it's been a bit iffy. I mean, again, going back to my first few years on home turf with England, we never lost. We never lost. And then there was that couple of year period where, anything was happening, and it wasn't great, but fair play, the change of management, change of captain. Joe Root, absolutely fantastic with his captaincy, but maybe the freshen up and just the different approach, it was what was needed, and is a good move. But been thoroughly entertaining, that's for sure.
The thing that always fascinates me with you, and I've got the utmost respect for how you go about your job, whether it's the World Cup final 2019, whether it's all the events the last week, whether it's anything and everything else in between, your ability to just calmly announce what needs to be announced without any kind of... Well, I mean, surely there must be times when you're almost jumping up and down out of your seat, but you have to maintain that famous composure. But it is a tremendous skill.
No, thank you. But I mean, with cricket, it's that experience and of the game. That's the key, and it's knowing the right time to try and come in, because, as you all know, you've been to many games, particularly with full houses, where there's no point coming in at a certain point where the crowd are at their absolute highest. It's the right time. It's trying to get the right momentum. The names. A lot of people often ask why in Test matches, which is tradition but may change, that we don't say dismissals and the incoming batter like there is and everything else. And part of that is because the drama is enough, for that type of game. And it is a lot of it is knowing the timing. And don't get me wrong, anyone can come in and do the job and everything else and do a fantastic job. But the one thing that I would answer is how you keep like that is, I think, just the experience of the game, and having done every format for so many years, county level, international level. It's just trying to know the right time to do it, and you kind of, with experience, get to know that. I mean, a lot will say I've probably done it too long, so maybe it's time for that experience to disappear. But you know what I mean. It's getting the feeling for the game, the feeling for the crowd, and knowing the right time. And that's the key.
Well, I always get very excited going to Thursday Test matches. I'm still a kid. I'm still a kid where Test match cricket is concerned, and also getting on an aeroplane. I am still that small child that's excited, whatever else, and wandering into Lords and becoming part of that famous hum, whatever else. Still, one of the spine-tingling moments of being at Lords or being at the Oval or wherever is when your dulcet tones come over the PA system with that lovely "Welcome to Lords" piece that you do much before players started, and just sort of making people. It just, to me, sets the tone for the occasion, and it does it every time. And you are very, very, very good at it, I must admit.
Well, thank you very much. But of course, one thing I will say was that Johnny Dennis, who I took over from, and I've mentioned this many times, Johnny was a fantastic man, and I took over from Johnny in 2013, and I think Johnny passed in the winter of 2015. Just one of the greatest people ever that you will ever have met, and I learned more from him about timing than anything else. And I remember Mark Chapman of BBC, who worked on a lot of games with us. We had an infamous night out once where Johnny was there, and we had this DJ that at the time must have been 2009 for the T20 World Cup, or 13 for a Champs Trophy, and it was the most random four people together you're ever likely to find, and we had this DJ, big afro, great character, KG he was called, and he was with us. You had Johnny, who was in his 70s. There was me, and you had Chappers as well, and Chappers just said to me at the end, he was like, "You sure about this?" And at the end of the night, he said, "Oh my God." And he said, "I would love to get Johnny in a room and record him." And TV, because Johnny's stories were phenomenal about the old school acts that he knew, as well as cricket. He did a lot of theatre and did a lot of TV and movies and voiceovers, and some of his stories were just phenomenal. Some of the names that got mentioned, but he was phenomenal. Because bearing in mind, I first met Johnny mid to late 2000s, 2008, 2009. So I've been doing the job a fair while. And I remember walking in a test match and thinking, "Oh, I wonder why this is done and this is done and this is done." And I went and sat with Johnny, and I just sat there, and you just learnt more. But a bit like you just said, the timing was phenomenal. His timing was just brilliant, and his delivery. And that's kind of where I think, don't get me wrong, things will change, things may change, who knows, but there is the tradition of Lords, there's a tradition of test matches, and people enjoy that, there is no doubt, and that's how that should be. Other things have gone off in other directions, that's changed, that whether we like it or not happens, and and fair play, and you go with the times, because everything will change. But I think people like that. People like what they get, because Test match cricket is so special. And you forget whether you're going for the first time, whether you're going for the 500th time. You go to a match at Lord's, you go to a match at the Oval, you go to a match at Headingley, Trent Bridge, Old Trafford. It's a very special moment for somebody, and you want to try and add to that day.
No, you do. So as the sun sets on yet another England domestic season, England heading off to Pakistan, but what does the autumn and the winter hold in store for Mr. Graham Woodward?
Well, I'm doing the Royal London final on Saturday, which I'm looking forward to, Lancashire and Kent, which will be a special moment, of course, for Darren Stevens, who's been, playing for pretty much most of the time I've been around. So I've seen, what a special talent he's been. And if it is to be the swan song, which I think it is, then, let's hope that that's a cracking day for him. Although I think Lancashire are very, very strong. But I've got that. Then I'm actually looking forward to a week away, because the summer is such a busy time, trying to do all my different jobs, doing that. I work obviously in horse racing, working with a couple of the betting partners, where I do horse racing and general sport, which involves Envision, on the middle, and Early's doing voiceovers, covering all sports. So we'll get to cover some cricket on that, I'm glad to say, on the various tours that take place, and no doubt when the Big Bash starts, that sort of thing. And the motor racing I do, which I enjoy, which is stock car racing with Speedworth, which, although is nearing the business end of their season, we still have a couple of their world finals to come. But also we have a channel, Speedworth TV, which I'm very much involved with, and we have Friday night magazine programs, we have a quiz show, there's all sorts of programs, and they tend to run throughout the winter months in the close season. So I'll be going out recording a lot of features, recording a lot for those programs. And again, that's something that I've grown up with, like cricket, that I enjoy. And it's a bit of a change. It's something different. I still cover race meetings for them, but during the winter, doing those features is good fun, because, like cricket, you get to meet over the years so many special people, different generations, their families, and that carries on. So I enjoy that. So I'll be horse racing on the whole. Few trips, few race days as well. We'll be on track doing some bits. Few days where we'll be at racetracks having a drink, and not working. But I am looking forward to a couple of breaks in the sun, in the Canaries, just to chill out, do nothing, and get some sun, because it is a very long summer. I'm sure it is for everybody, but it's just nice to occasionally refresh the batteries.
From stock car racing to day one at Lord's, what an array of ability you have got, sir. Listen, on behalf of me and on behalf of all cricket fans that attend the games, and hear your voice on the television, the radio, I really would genuinely like to thank you for your contribution to this summer, particularly over these last few days. It was an incredible occasion. You were front and centre, kind of emceeing the whole thing, which you did absolutely astoundingly well. You were a very big part of the events that happened over the last couple of days. So thanks from not just me, but everyone in the cricketing world for your contribution to a very, very important event.
Thanks, man. That means an awful lot. And as I say, all we try and do is add to an occasion. And that was something very, very special. And it was very nerve-wracking, even after all we've done over the years and everything. But no, that means a lot. And as I say, well done to Surrey, well done to the ECB team. There was an awful lot that went into that, and everybody, and in particular to Laura, who was just absolutely first class. But no, I really appreciate that.
Graham Woodward, the voice of England cricket, many thanks for joining us.
Thanks, mate. Wish you a good and happy, safe winter.